We continue with more coverage on Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the void left now on the High Court, one that could potentially be filled by a Catholic woman. Joining me now on Skype to talk more about Justice Ginsburg's legacy and the road ahead is Robert George, McCormick Professor of Jurisprudence and Director of the James Madison Program in American Ideals and Institutions at Princeton University. Robbie, welcome back. Always great to be with you. First, I'd like to begin with your reflections on Justice Ginsburg.
Well, Justice Ginsburg was the anchor and often the driving force on the left side of the Supreme Court. She played the role opposite to that of Justice Antonin Scalia, who was not only her ideological adversary, but her good friend, who was the anchor and very often the driving force on the right side of the court. Her judicial philosophy was to try to advance through the law causes she believed in, progressive causes she believed in. Women's equality was the cause she began her career advancing. She did that as a lawyer. Working, for example, as a lawyer with the American Civil Liberties Union, a left-wing advocacy organization. She was later, after being a successful litigator, including in the Supreme Court, made a judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. There's where she became close to Justice Antonin Scalia, Judge then Antonin Scalia, who was serving on the same court, despite their political differences. Then, of course, eventually both were elevated to the Supreme Court of the United States, where they continued to oppose each other jurisprudentially and politically, even as their friendship blossomed.
I know there's great political debate going on right now. What should happen next? President Trump says that he plans to announce a female nominee to fill that vacancy at the end of the week. What are your thoughts as we watch this all play out?
Well, I think what will happen is that the president will make his nomination. The Senate will then count noses. Senator Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Republicans, the leader of the majority, will count noses and see if he thinks he has the votes to confirm the president's nominee before the election. If he does have the votes, I don't have the slightest doubt that he will do it. If he fears that he does not, he will put it off until after the election, but will certainly try to get it done with the majority needed. Even if it's 50-50, the Vice President of the United States, Vice President Pence, can cast the deciding vote before a new administration comes to power if President Trump is defeated. If President Trump prevails in his bid for re-election here in just a few weeks, then, of course, it will just be a matter of time before the nominee is, in fact, confirmed. Of course, we're waiting to see who the nominee is. The president has some outstanding young or youngish women jurists from whom to choose. The leading contender at the moment is someone I think extremely highly of, Judge Amy Coney Barrett of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit, also a professor at Notre Dame Law School. She happens to be a Catholic, very devout in her faith. She's not only an outstanding lawyer and judge, she's the mother of 7 children, including 2 adopted children from Haiti. One of her children is a special needs child. So she is a woman with a remarkable background, astonishing achievement. She herself clerked for Justice Scalia and is a sort of protege of the late Justice Scalia, embracing Justice Scalia's principles of textualism and originalism in constitutional interpretation. If the president makes that nomination, I will certainly be very happy. But there are other outstanding women jurists from whom the president can choose.
Robbie, I want to go back to Amy Coney Barrett. Let's talk a little bit more about her. I know critics have kind of criticized her in the past, focused on her faith, and suggested that it may influence her judicial decisions, a charge that Coney Barrett has denied. What's your take on this kind of speculation and also these kind of religious attacks?
These attacks began when she was up for confirmation in 2017 before the Senate Judiciary Committee for the position she currently holds as a U.S. Court of Appeals judge. The attacks on her faith, Tracy, were shameful. They were disgusting. This brought back shades of 1928, the Al Smith campaign, 1960, the anti-Catholicism against John F. Kennedy during that campaign. One would have hoped we were beyond that kind of anti-religious bigotry in this country. But to their eternal shame, a number of Democratic progressive United States senators stooped to that kind of discussing bigotry, and commentators out there on the blogs and writing articles and so forth engaged in it as well. You would have thought that having broken their spear on Judge Barrett last time they pulled this kind of shenanigans, they would be careful not at least to be public in exhibiting their prejudice. But we're seeing it again already out there on the blogs, in writings, in published articles. And I fear that we're going to see it within the Senate itself, and it is to be nothing but condemned.
Well, Robbie, thank you so much for your time today and for your analysis. We really appreciate you speaking with us. Robert George, McCormick Professor of Jurisprudence and Director of the James Madison Program in American Ideals and Institutions at Princeton University. Thank you as always.
Pleasure.